Hey y'all, welcome back to our series on procedural generation basics. I'm Matt Mirafish, and in this video we're going to look at a really fundamental concept in procedural generation, which is using a seed for our random generator. What we mean when we say a seed is this is a value, usually a number. In this case it's going to be an integer, and this is going to determine the initial state of our random generation and then everything that happens afterwards. So what it's going to allow us to do is to generate random things, but reproduce them, right? So it's not literally different every time. We say if we put in 1, we're going to get one result, put in 2, we're going to get another result, and then if we go back to 1, we'll get the same result that we had before. So there are some games in the past that have used this really extensively. The original Elite Dangerous used this to store a whole galaxy of planets because it was just actually storing seed values instead of storing all the generated data, and then the generated data was generated at runtime, right? So it's a really interesting technique. It's also really, really useful for debugging procedural generation, right? One of the things that can be difficult about creating procedural scenes or games is that you'll get these weird edge cases and things that will happen and you can't reproduce them, right? You can't figure out, oh, what happened that time? Why did the player get stuck in the wall or whatever it was? Well, if you have a seed, then you can, right? You can see, okay, on this seed, for some reason, these conditions are occurring, and you can tweak and test and repeat the results, right? So a seed is a way to create repeatable results during procedural generation. Let's check it out. All right, so let's take a look at how we set up a random seed for our generation process, or set the seed of the random generator. So here we have our robot, Roborto, who is in an empty scene. And then if we enter the scene, enter play mode, we can see we generate this fall landscape with a bunch of trees made out of planes or quads, and we've got leaves on the ground, and we have this kind of nice fall scene. I also added a little post-processing with some excessive bloom, changed some of the colors just for fun. So what we have here is this script called set random seed, and we have a string seed, which is woo. We have a Boolean to choose whether we want to use the string seed, a display for the seed, or if we're not using the string seed, we can just type in an integer here, and then we also have the choice to randomize the seed. So if we turn on randomize seed, this is going to give us a random number, and it's going to generate a new fall scene for us, as you can see. So they all look very similar, right? But we can see that they're different. Let's turn off randomized seed for a second. So this is really useful when you're debugging or testing, or even if you wanted to do some kind of daily challenge style gameplay that some games like Spelunky and some others do. In games like RimWorld, they will have you type in a seed, or they'll auto-generate a seed, but then you can type one in. So theoretically, you could share that seed with other players if you guys wanted to play in the same randomly generated world. So there's a lot of game design and gameplay potential in this seeding technique. So let's take a look at how this is implemented code-wise. As you can see, this is a tiny little script. It's really, really simple. We have our public fields that we just walked through. We have a string for the seed string with a default value. We have a Boolean to decide whether we want to use that as our seed. We have the seed itself. And then we have this option to randomize seed, another Boolean. Now, notice that we're running all of this from awake, right? We're using awake because awake is going to be called before start. In my example, I was calling my generation code from start just because I was lazy and there's no game manager or anything. But it's important that the state of the random generator be set before any of the generation code gets called. So if you had a game manager, I would do this probably as your very first step, and then fire off whatever generation you wanted to do, right? So we're going to check if we're going to use the string seed. If we are, we're going to set seed equal to string seed, our string, dot get hash code. Now what this does is just converts or gets a hash value, which is a 32-bit integer based on the string, right? So it's just getting us a number that is equivalent to that string, or it's the hash of that string, right? So this is basically just a way to turn a string into an integer. Then we're going to check if we want to randomize the seed. If we do, we're going to set the seed to equal a random number from between 0 and 999,000, or 99,999, anyway. And we're going to pass that into this function here, which is random.initState. So let me actually just pull up the documentation for that real quick. So random.initState just takes in a single int, which is the seed, and that's used to initialize the random number generator. So what they explain here is that actually getting truly random numbers is like a hard problem, and you can go down a deep rabbit hole of the way it's used in cryptography, and because generally speaking computers are not good at doing truly random things. For the purposes of video games, it's pretty much fine, right? But being able to control the sequence of random data that we're generating actually in this case is a benefit for us, right? We want repeating randomness, not totally unpredictable randomness, so we can reproduce the state of the game. So the random number generator produces numbers in a preset sequence, and then the values in the sequence jump around the range so that they appear random. And basically what we're doing is picking where we start in that random set of values, right? And then working through the random data set. So it's an interesting subject kind of for further research, but really all that we need to do is we're just setting the state of the random number generator, and that will then allow us to recall the state based on that number. And importantly, this will be true for all the different parts of our game, right? Anything that's using random.range or random whatever will be reproduced by setting the initial state of the random generator. So this allows us to basically have a single value that will capture the random starting point of any random generation in our game. So I hope that was helpful for you, and I hope that it's given you some ideas for how you can use seeds in your own random generation. If you enjoyed the video, please drop a like on it. Leave me a comment down below. How might you use this? What type of problems could you use this to solve? Maybe what gameplay ideas does this give you? If you enjoyed this content and you'd like to see more, please consider subscribing to the channel. And as always, thanks so much for watching. I'll see you next time.